Hello everyone, I'm Yulin Kutrim-Schmid, and together with my colleague Anita Cvetkovic-Kinley, I'm presenting intermediate findings of the European project Template. And the title of our presentation is Challenging the Monolingual Bias in Telecollaboration. Template stands for Technology-Mediated Plurilingual Activities for Language Teacher Education. The word activities in our project title can be better understood as tasks, since our project places special emphasis on the concept of plurilingual tasks. Before I start talking about the goals and contributions of the template project, I would like to explain what we mean by plurilingual task. In our project, a plurilingual task is understood as a language learning activity that requires or allows the use of multiple languages and diverse cultural knowledge, creates opportunities for learners' use of their plurilingual resources to engage in meaningful and personally relevant communication, and builds on authentic plurilingual practice experienced by learners in their everyday lives. The recent literature on plurilingual education has identified good task design as a key element for the successful implementation of plurilingual-inspired pedagogies. The literature recommendation is to go beyond the work with plurilingual exercises and help teachers to acquire skills for the development of authentic and meaningful plurilingual tasks. And that's what we want to achieve in our project. But who are we? The Template Project is a European project funded under the Erasmus Plus program. It's a strategic partnership formed by 5 university partners: Universitat di Torino in Italy as project coordinators, Universität Catholique de Louvain in Belgium, Vilnius University in Lithuania, Universidad Jaume I in Spain, and the Pädagogische Hochschule Schwäbisch Gmünd in Germany. What are the main goals of the project? As the title already reveals, the project investigates the use of technology-mediated plurilingual approaches in foreign language education or language education, with a special emphasis on teacher professional development. The project focuses on the design, implementation, and evaluation of a set of professional development modules that can help teachers to integrate new technologies effectively into their practice and embrace students' plurilingual repertoires as valuable linguistic and cultural resources for language learning. So basically, the modules will support competence development in the areas of TBLT, task-based language teaching, technology, and plurilingualism. How are we going to design and evaluate these modules? The best way to answer this question is by taking a look at the project life cycle. The project has 3 main phases. 2 of these phases have already been accomplished. I will talk about the 3rd phase later on. In the first phase, we conducted a needs analysis through a survey on teachers' current use of technology and plurilingual approaches. During this phase, we also developed the first module, which can be regarded as a foundation module focusing on key theoretical concepts informing the design of the other more practice-oriented modules. In the second phase, we, the project partners, use the results of the survey to produce 4 practical teacher education modules. Then, professional development workshops were offered to the participating teachers in the different countries. The teachers provided feedback on the workshops via questionnaires and/or interviews. After that, the teachers, with the support of researchers and student teachers, applied the methodologies and tools they learned to their own contexts. And finally, teachers and learners reflected on their experience via questionnaires and interviews. As I mentioned before, 4 practice-oriented modules were produced, focusing on the various contexts in which plurilingual language education can be implemented. For example, the CLIL context, content and language integrated learning, MFL, modern foreign language classroom, or telecollaboration. And we also prepared one last module containing a repository of video tutorials on digital tools that can facilitate the integration of technology-mediated plurilingual tasks into the language curriculum. In this presentation, we are focusing on the module Plurilingualism in International Project-Based Education with Telecollaboration. Before describing the module in more detail, we need to explain some of the main theoretical principles underlying the design of the module. First of all, with this module, we want to tackle the so-called monolingual bias in computer-assisted language learning. The researcher Judith Bündgens-Kosten has defined the monolingual bias as a deficit in considering the full range of pre-existing languages of a learner, of languages used in a specific setting, or of plurilingual skills in the design of and the research on computer-assisted language learning. More specifically, in the area of telecollaboration, Mellot Pfeiffer has discussed this issue extensively in her publications. For the implementation of the module, we drew on sociocultural theories of teacher learning. Therefore, key principles underlying our professional development program are situated learning, peer collaborative learning, and reflective practice. We also used the progressive exchange model put forward by O'Dowd and Ware in 2009 as a basis for the design of the telecollaboration tasks. The tasks were organized into three categories based on the type of communicative activity that took place. They were information exchange tasks, comparison and analysis tasks, or collaborative tasks. My colleague Anita will now give you more detailed information about the design and implementation of the module, and I will come back later on to present and discuss some intermediate research findings.
Thank you, Yulin. I would like to tell you about the module Plurilingualism in International Project-Based Education with Telecollaboration. The aims of this module were threefold: to provide pre- and in-service teachers with an introduction to key theoretical concepts in the areas of project-based education and telecollaboration. Secondly, to offer practical guidance on how to set up a virtual exchange in language education that include a plurilingual dimension. Lastly, to offer examples of plurilingual tasks that have been implemented and evaluated in the school context. General information about the training. 18 teachers engaged in a telecollaboration project with other language teachers. The teachers were from 5 different European countries: Spain, Italy, Belgium, Germany, and Lithuania. The training was organized into 4 live sessions on Zoom, plus some asynchronous materials on Moodle to facilitate the learning process. Following O'Dowd and Ware's progressive exchange model, there were 3 phases: information exchange task, comparison analysis task, and a collaborative task. The technologies we used were Zoom, Padlet, Kahoot, Flipgrid, Google Forms, Google Docs, and Moodle for the asynchronous part. The materials on Moodle were presented using the interactive H5P book. Both the progressive exchange model and intercultural competence were presented using the same structure. First, the theoretical background, then some examples, some interactive games and revisions for the teachers, as well as a reflective part where teachers were asked to answer some questions using a forum. Prior to the training, the teachers were asked to complete a survey on Google Forms. This survey included questions about their professional profile, organization and school they worked for, as well as their expectations regarding the training. As you can see from this pie chart, the majority of the teachers work in the secondary education sector, whereas some work in the primary at primary and university level. As I said, we used the progressive exchange model developed by O'Dowd and Ware And the first session was getting to know each other session. So prior to meeting on Zoom, the teachers were asked to introduce themselves via a post on Padlet. Apart from writing about their likes and dislikes, their hobbies, and their background, they were also asked to add 3 adjectives that describe them, as well as a saying in a language of their choice. This way, we made sure to include a plurilingual element to the task as well. Once we met online, the teachers were put into smaller groups and they commented on the similarities and differences based on the posts on Padlet. Using the very words they provided in the introductions task, a plurilingual Kahoot quiz was implemented, which teachers then played live during the session and discussed. Moreover, a survey was done via Mentimeter to identify the languages present in their community. After this, the teachers were asked to discuss how they would prepare their students for an information exchange task, and the comments were posted in the Padlet. So this was the reflective section of the first session. The second session, comparison and analysis, was all about linguistic landscape. So as a little pre-task, the teachers were asked to post pictures of the languages present in their community to Padlet. Once we met online, we first commented on the results of the word cloud that was done in the first session. After that, the teachers presented their examples, the examples of pictures of the languages present in their community, to each other and commented on the findings. Once in plenary, they shared the results with the whole group and commented if there were any interesting or surprising discoveries in the comparison of results. As a post-tasks, they were asked to reflect on linguistic landscapes and transfer their knowledge to their own teaching contexts. Again, all the answers were recorded via a separate Padlet. Prior to the third session, we wanted to capitalize on comparison analysis, so we asked the teachers to create a short video about an idiom with a cultural reference, such as "excuse my French" or "parlare arabo" in different languages. They used Flipgrid to share the video, but also reply to other people's contribution using the chat function, such as if there's a similar phrase in another language that they speak, and so on. They also discussed the relevance and usability of this task in the teacher's specific context. The collaborative task, which was the third task, was done by analyzing and adapting language learning tasks, existing language learning tasks. So the teachers were put into groups and each group had to develop a plurilingual task by adapting an existing one on Google Docs. All the tasks have been developed and tested in the framework of the DECOLA European project. The analysis was done by answering a set of preset questions and then discuss how plurilingual elements could be added to the task. The answers were recorded directly on Google Docs and teachers also reflected on their own teaching context. The fourth session, which happened in January, was about the presentation of the e-tweening platform and showing an example of telecollaboration project. We also used this session to collect data via a focus group interview. And as I've mentioned previously, an anonymous survey was done prior to the training. The results. During all of these different sessions, the teachers had a chance to talk to each other, and using Moodle, they were able to stay in touch throughout the training. So actually, 3 school-based international projects were formed: German-Italian, one in the secondary and 2 in the primary sector. These projects took place from March till June, and the results of these projects were presented in the final session, to which all the teachers were invited. Data collection was done via one-on-one interviews with the participating teachers, as well as focus group interviews with the pupils. And Yulene will tell you a little bit more about the findings.
Thank you, Anita. Even though we already collected data on the school implementation, We won't be able to discuss this data today due to time constraints. I will now share some of the teachers' general responses to the first phase of the professional development program, the training workshops. First of all, the plural tasks used during the training were regarded as creative inspiration for the teacher's own practice. Some of the teachers had the opportunity to try them out right away with their classes. For instance, the linguistic landscapes task and the idioms with cross-cultural reference activity, and they were very pleased with the results. Other teachers demonstrated excitement to try out the new ideas and to evaluate their pupils' reactions. Teachers also showed relief to see that the integration of plurilingual tasks in the foreign language classroom does not involve necessarily a drastic reformulation of learning goals and teaching procedures. They noticed that they can adapt existing activities, and sometimes only a small change can create many opportunities for the development of plurilingual competences. It was also interesting to see how some teachers already experienced a change of perspective as a result of their participation in the workshops. For instance, one teacher who used the target language only approach in her EFL teaching started to question this principle as she reflected on the different functions of code switching in everyday life. The teachers also expressed some negative responses. For instance, some teachers found it difficult to conciliate the ideas of plurilingual education with previously learned principles of foreign language teaching, as for example, the target language only approach. Also, the combination of these two competence areas, plurilingualism and computer-assisted language learning, also proved to be somehow overwhelming for some of the participating teachers. And some teachers also struggled to adapt the proposed activities to their own teaching context. For example, to the CLIL, Content and Language Integrated Learning context. Teachers were also asked to reflect on the possible benefits of plurilingual education, more generally speaking, and these are some of the aspects they mentioned. The teachers mentioned code switching as an important skill in foreign language learning, for example, for mediation. Referring to telecollaboration more specifically, EFL teachers mentioned that plurilingual exchanges can challenge the role of English as dominant language, as teachers can instead focus on the role of English as lingua franca. Plurilingual education was also regarded as an opportunity to broaden the teachers' as well as the learners' horizons beyond the usual target language and target culture focus. It can also show the importance and equality of different languages and cultures. Students feel proud of their language and heritage, and it can also support the development of language awareness. For example, one teacher gave the example of the arbitrariness of language as one element that her learners learned. Regarding the possible challenges of plurilingual education, the teachers mentioned possible difficulties in integrating plurilingual tasks into the curriculum due to time constraints. They have a relatively fixed curriculum, and the lack of teaching materials, ready-made teaching materials. They also mentioned possible difficulties in involving shy and more sensitive students who might not feel comfortable bringing in certain aspects of their identities into the school domain. They also pointed out that this new approach can be overwhelming for language teachers who constantly have to learn about new methods and trends. And now we come to the next steps of the project. Based on the results of the interviews and classroom implementation, the partners will finalize the teaching training modules. These resources will be freely available on the project website so that a greater number of teachers, teacher trainers, and researchers are able to benefit directly from project results. And I would like to finish this presentation with a quote from one of the participating teachers who already sees herself as a pioneer who can contribute to educational transformation. When asked about the best type of support for practitioners in this area, one of the teachers said, So let's open this platform. She means the template Moodle website. You, the trainers, have started this session by explaining the importance of eTwinning, the eTwinning platform, and you have shown how to see projects already accomplished. So why not? Since there is a shortage of Prolingo materials, if we are pioneers and we have already started this experience, we should go on and we should encourage other teachers to follow us. Please visit our website and discover more yourself. Thank you very much for your attention.